Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 33 of Generation GC. My name is Molly Hudelson, and I'm your host. This week, we're talking about Festival Song from Good Charlotte's debut self-titled album. Last week, we talked about Better Demons from Generation RX, and next week, we'll be talking about a song from The Young and the Hopeless. My guest this week is Chase Nichols, guitarist, vocalist from the Cincinnati-based pop-punk band Mascots. They kind of blend a lot of the heartfelt energy of old-school pop-punk with just this new-school excitement of kind of the early Tumblr era pop-punk. I think you'll really dig their music. Mascots originally formed in 2014 and since then have had a string of prolific EP releases. Nothing to Lose, The Good in Me, Time to Time, Butterfly Effect in 2018. In the summer of 2017, they played the main stage of the Vans Warped Tour alongside some acts like Beartooth, Hands Like Houses, Neck Deep. And they've been conquering the Midwest, one DIY venue at a time. And they've played shows with some pretty cool names. Tiny Moving Parts, Broadside, Microwave, A Will Away, so many more. Mascots is Chris Henderson on vocals, Chase Nichols, as we mentioned, our guest this week on guitar and vocals, Brandon Chitwood on guitar, Alex Stewart on bass, and Justin Scriber on drums. A few reminders before we get into the show. Please visit antisemitism.card.co and blacklivesmatters.card.co to learn more about anti-Semitism and the Black Lives Matter movement, respectively. The U.S. presidential election is coming up very, very soon, and in many states, the deadline to register to vote has passed, but some states you can even register to vote same day. A lot of states have early voting, so go to vote.org and they'll have information on registration in your state. They'll also have election reminders, polling place locators if you are voting in person. Finally, Generation GC stickers are here. Do you want a sticker? Two things you can do. Number one, support the show on Anchor. Go to anchor.fm/GenerationGCPod and click support. And that helps me sustain the show and have the right equipment, as well as to do things like print stickers and get them mailed to you. Number two, you can donate to a charitable organization. Go to blacklivesmatters.card.co and just pick any of the organizations they list, because they can all really use your help. And then you are going to send me a screenshot of either your support of the show on Anchor or your charitable donation, as well as your mailing address. You could DM me on Twitter or Instagram at GenerationGCPod or email generationgcpod@gmail.com and I'll mail you stickers. I will also occasionally tweet or post on the Instagram story about other ways you all can get stickers, whether that's good deeds you can do or ways to help spread the word about the show, so make sure you're following. Please continue keeping up with the show on socials. I love connecting with everyone. I also want to know what you guys want to hear on the show, whether that's a specific, type of angle you'd like to hear in terms of the format and the questions I ask, or specific songs you're excited about, whether that's like a Good Charlotte album track or any kind of, deep cuts, non-album tracks, anything else you might want to hear in a bonus episode, or any guests you might want to hear on a show, whether that's like you, whether you're like, hey, I want to come talk about Good Charlotte on Generation GC, or there's someone whether that's like a band member that is definitely a GC fan, or just a friend of yours, let me know. Send me a message. Tag me on socials. Whatever. I want to hear what you guys want to hear. Thank you all for tuning in, and now on to our episode.
So, Festival Song is track 5 on Good Charlotte's debut album, Good Charlotte. Track 4 was East Coast Anthem. Track 6 was Complicated. So they had a couple high energy songs and then something a little slower. And it was the third single from the album following Little Things and Motivation Proclamation. And I didn't realize this, Chase, and I don't know if you know this, because I'm not sure how old you were in 2002, because this was before this is right before I got into the band. But this wasn't a single technically until 2002. They filmed the video in 2001, but it was not a single apparently until 2002. So
yeah, I was still kind of a baby then. Just pushing 10 years old. And I actually heard the song in 2002 for the first time on a GameCube video game.
No way.
Yeah. Video games used to have awesome soundtracks back then.
Yeah, well, I think of Tony Hawk Pro Skater as like
absolutely the trendsetters there.
Yeah. I mean, never. Kind of. I'll expose myself. I am not a video game person. Like, we just never have one in the house, so I just have never really played them. Okay. But I know that like everyone cites Tony Hawk.
Exactly. But it was weird, an NHL game, and it just had kind of a good mix of what got me into what I'm in today, and especially this song, I think. Of course, All the Small Things came out a few years before that, and I was 6 years old singing that song at the top of my lungs. Yep. It was a thing.
I remember having, it was like, now that's what I call music, like the third or fourth that had All the Small Things on it.
Yep, that's the same thing. That's when I first heard it.
So I try to find, whenever that's a song that's a single, I try to find out if it charted, and I don't think it charted. Like, I looked at their Billboard chart history, and it was not even listed.
Right.
But
yeah, at the same time, like, The Young and Hopeless came out with that same year. It was released as a single, so it kind of, I think, got overshone by some of the other big ones that are more popular today. Yeah,
and like Little Things charted kind of lower down, but like by the time this was released to radio, it was like very soon after was Young and Hopeless. But it did get some airtime, at least, at WHFS, the now defunct alternative rock station in Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area, where they're from.
Appropriate, yeah.
Yeah. And listeners, you may or may not know that festival song is named for HF Festival, which was WHFS's annual show every spring, summer. They played this song at HF Festival in 2001, and that's where the music video was filmed.
I knew it was at a festival, but I know which one.
Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen them play this live, though. Like, they played it a lot early on, but have barely played it since their reunion. Have you ever seen them play it live?
I've actually never seen Good Charlotte live.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, it is a very kind of low point in my life, I guess. But I guess the opportunities just never arose for me to be able to see them. Even the last few Warped Tours they played, Cincinnati is always kind of the left out city, it seems like. So, no, never got the chance.
Yeah, I was thinking I did Warped Tour the year that they were on in 2016, and they played the APMAs in Columbus, and I think they played Cleveland Warped Tour, but I think they might have skipped Cincinnati.
Yeah, it's a easy city to just kind of pass by.
Well, Chase, I want to help our listeners get to know you and Mascots, as well as, what's going on in Cincinnati a little bit.
Absolutely. Of course, not much right now. Like most of the place. But yeah, I feel like it's over the past couple of decades, it's been a real kind of metal scene in my mind. It really blew up, and we had a huge scene around that. And around probably the early 2010s, a lot of that kind of died down. I saw a lot of decrease in people in shows, people going to venues closing down. It's kind of been a recycle kind of pattern. But now it seems like pop punk's making a stronger statement, kind of more of a pop comeback.
I like that.
Yeah, and I like we've kind of helped push that around here. We have a lot of new friends that we've made because of it, and been seeing more and more traffic through Cincinnati, and I hope that keeps happening with some of the bigger bands. I know a few years ago we opened up for Tiny Moving Parts at Bogart's, and that was probably one of the coolest things I've ever been a part of.
Their shows are crazy.
Yes, they're all amazing musicians, but the way that he can play the guitar and sing like that is fantastic, in my opinion.
Yeah. I like what you're saying about just having, it sounds like there's stuff that's going on at the local level, and it sounds like kind of stuff that's going on at the local level is allowing you to support the bigger shows coming through. And I don't just mean like, of course, when like local acts such as Mascots get to open for these bigger shows, but I don't know, at least from my own experience, it feels like you have an active kind of local scene in these smaller shows. Those get bigger. Those bands get bigger. Those bands become the touring bands and are the ones playing the bigger venues.
That's the dream, at least.
Yeah.
And we've been pushing for that for a few years now. Up and downs with changing the members in the band and different writing styles that we've been trying. And I mean, I think we've always had a true heart to the pop punk community and that sound. There's always new stuff that comes up and new things that you can do. So.
Sure. I would love to know what are some of the other bands coming up in Cincinnati? Any other local acts that you'd want to recommend?
Some of my close friends, Big Smile. They actually just signed with Anchor 84 along with Grayscale.
I love Anchor 84. Yeah.
Right? So big milestone for them. Really happy to see them move on. I actually was a roommate with one of their members, and kind of knowing that we played music together and they're doing well and we're doing well and we can support these shows is awesome. There's so many though, even in Cleveland, because we travel around Ohio.
Sure, yeah.
Very often, Elbow Room has been a really close band with us. Spectrum's Friday Giants. I'm gonna get so many people like, "Hey, you forgot us," but I promise I don't forget any of you, and I love all of you. But yeah, those are definitely some of the big ones that I would definitely like to point out. Yeah, and everybody's been releasing new music lately, locally. So being able to, kind of put more attention, at least digitally right now, towards those bands, and sharing, commenting, all that stuff, and growing the scene and making it less of a, as Fall Out Boy would say, an arms race, and making it more of a kind of community, I think really helps everybody and what they really want for the music scene.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a musician, so despite my involvement in both the Northeast Ohio scene when I was there, and then currently on the East Coast, it feels like, if you want to make it big as a band, you have to be professional, right?
Absolutely.
But and you have to know your business tactics, but at the same time, part of that is working with people and building that community. And it doesn't mean you have to go to every single show that every band ever plays everywhere in the city, because that is, I don't know, I always felt like, even as someone who was at the scene in a different way, there was sort of this pressure of you have to support the scene and go to every show. No. I go to a lot, but you can't be everywhere. But I feel like it's, you have to uplift other people when you can, and treat people with the respect that you want them to treat you with.
All right, the golden rule.
Yeah.
And I think the bands around here especially, and everybody really does that well. There's not a show I will play here and will not make friends with, if we haven't already, the bands that we're playing, or just hang out and talk and just see how everybody's how it's going for them at the time, what they're doing differently, what they're trying, what we're trying, and we just keep building. And I really like seeing that, especially where I'm living. Yeah.
It's a great feeling. I've always felt like, in terms of, making friends and meeting people at shows, it's a great feeling when it's nice when a couple people going in, but
Right.
a thriving scene, even if you aren't close friends with anyone, like you'll walk in and like you'll probably walk out of there like following a couple new people on Instagram or adding them on Facebook.
Exactly. Or walking out after a few drinks and going to get food with them afterwards. And
Yeah.
it's like you never know what's going to happen. And I think that's one of the exciting parts about it.
Man, late night French fries after a show hits so different.
Absolutely.
Okay, wait. So what's your favorite what's your favorite post-show food?
Well, here it's kind of a mandatory requirement to go to a Cincinnati chili.
Right, with the spaghetti, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Always open late, so after a show, just a nice big bowl of greasy noodles is.
Yeah.
And what more could you ask for loaded with cheese?
I mean, I could see it. I support it. I support it.
Yeah. I mean, we take every band that we can that will follow us there.
Yeah.
In not a weird way. It's just interesting to see people's first reactions to it, honestly.
Well, like normally on pretty much everywhere besides Cincinnati, if you get chili, it's maybe with rice or you have it with like a side of cornbread.
Right.
But I will admit, I have done some vegan bean chili, and I've not had rice in the house. So I was like, well, I know in Cincinnati they do it with spaghetti. So I have like made myself some spaghetti and it's pretty good. I'm in support of it.
If you come down, we'll definitely have to give you the real treatment of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Chase, something I like to ask everyone that comes on the show is, when did you first hear Good Charlotte? Was hearing Festival Song on GameCube, was that like the first time you'd ever heard of the band?
Yeah, that was the absolute first time. Like I said, I was 9 years old at the time. And the oldest sibling, didn't really have many family members who listened to that genre.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since Blink, that always stuck out to me. Growing up listening to pretty much pure 80s and country in the car with my mom, hearing that kind of raw emotional like powers and song, it just clicked for me from a really young age, and I guess it's always stuck. But since then, I mean, I've, like I said, followed them throughout. Once internet became more accessible to me.
Sure.
So I don't think I heard the anthem until I was in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess it was all downhill from there.
I love it. So I guess this is like a two-part question, but I want to share with you what I wrote back to your publicist, Jesse, when he had just sent me the press release about your Figure It Out video. And I told him that it reminded me of the early 2010s Tumblr pop punk revival with the energy. You're welcome. With the energy of some classic early 2000s pop punk. First of all, like, how has Good Charlotte influenced y'all, and what have been some other influences you want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, JC, Summon Blank, Simple Plan kind of.
This is who I am, and this is what I love.
I got my first guitar at 12, 13 years old, around that same middle school time. I was really listening to these albums, and the first thing I wanted to do was, how do I play that song? So of course I would, very untuned, try to play those songs and mimic them, and see how they do it. So that way, when the more I got comfortable with it, I was like, maybe this is something I could try too. I like to think that I'm trying. But yeah, the more I listened to it, the more the lyrics stuck with me, and the more I was able to relate to them growing up, and dealing with relationships and dealing with parents, and everybody telling me, in festival, to get a real job, and it's like that doesn't seem right for me, and these guys get it, and that's the way I want to be too. So it's stuck.
I love that. And I was reading an interview that your singer Chris did with a website called Sound in the Signals, and he just had a lot to say about your newest song figured out that feels pretty relevant to festival song, just feeling like, you want to change, but, it's a process. It takes time.
I'm pretty sure we even use the same, the 9 to 5 part.
Yeah, there was a line about the 9 to 5. Yeah.
And that's, it was the same idea that I had in my head. And I think they were kind of similar. They were very influenced by hip hop, if I'm not mistaken.
Good Charlotte?
Correct.
Yeah, and Beastie Boys being a big one, but yeah.
And I mean, it's been the same for me. I mean, pop punk has always been, that place in my heart, and will always be. But
sure,
I branch out so drastically, and
really,
even things like J. Cole's Dreamville, I've been listening to so much, and just seeing ways that they use music to hip hop and rap. Using those same type of melodies or tempos or like the offbeats, the polyrhythms that they use, putting that into like a pop punk aspect, and I think it makes a whole new kind of sound, or try to.
Yeah, it gives some flavor, I think, when a band has influences outside of, what their quote unquote immediate genre is. I
think that, at least for me, I think that's important, because I'll talk to people and like, I will not listen to this genre. I'm like, but have you heard this song?
Right.
It's like, oh, that is a good song. Having an open mind is just kind of a really important thing, I think, looking into anybody's life.
Yeah. I made a post on Facebook a few years ago saying that country and pop punk are exactly the same thing.
Yeah. Very, very similar.
And everyone was just like, I hate how true this is. But it's like, they're all, both country and pop punk is, especially like, when we talk about like the 2010s Tumblr revival, it's a lot of like, I hate my hometown / I also love my hometown, country.
Exactly.
It's new love and first love country. So it's all music is the same.
Yeah, just one's a little more aggressive. And I think that helps some people.
Yeah.
Hearing that aggression outward, it's, not always just inside you. Other people are feeling it too.
Yeah, I love that. I was not surprised, Chase, that you chose Festival Song, since this is a high energy song and Mascots is a very high energy band. Why did you want to talk about this song in particular?
It was really the history that I have with it.
Sure, so, yeah.
Playing that game, me and my brother would spend hours upon hours just, listening to that song because of that game. And, you turn off the songs you don't want to hear, so that
right.
song would just keep coming up every, few. And it just, I guess it reminds me of those times. And the more I aged, the more it related to me. And I think that's something that's really strong in a song, if you can relate for it for such a long time, and so much. 20 years now, so
yeah, because it means it's not dated.
Right.
I would love to talk about what the song means. Whatever your thoughts on it are, like, right now.
Yeah, so it's a very kind of, I'm not going to be what you want me to be. I'm going to try to live my life the way I like it. I don't want to do your 9 to 5 jobs. I don't want to, follow your orders. I just want to have fun, be with my friends and, have a festival in life. And that's, how I see it. And I think that's why it's easy to listen to so much. Kind of gives you that feel good summery vibe.
It's such a feel good summery vibe. And I was just thinking on like a marketing level, like they could have called the song HFS or HF Festival, but the fact that it's just festival song, even though it's like, that's kind of what it's about, is HF Festival.
I think they knew that they had that feeling at that festival.
Yeah,
but they have the same feeling at Warped Tour or
right.
whatever else we're doing at the time.
Yeah, they got to make it a little universal. I feel like, I think you're like spot on. I have a pretty similar interpretation, just that they're trying to say no and give this middle finger to everyone who doubts what they're doing. You know, I think they're saying that, like, they used to really care what people thought of them, but they don't anymore. They're not going to listen. They're going to live their life the way that they see fit.
All right, it's just a very liberating feeling once you do. And I think it's, you know, it's a fun song, but it has a kind of a strong message, especially when you're, you know, doing something that's uncertain, like trying to play music for a living or any of the arts or etc.
Because there's risk, right? It's like,
well, that's life,
right? It's like, you know, eventually you have to quit your, if your dream is to quote unquote make it in the music industry, eventually you gotta quit, you know, your part-time retail job or your 9-to-5 office job if you're gonna tour. Right. I mean, I speak as if we're in a world without coronavirus, but if you're gonna tour, you know, 9 months a year, and there's an element of risk, and I feel like there's some anger here, but they're very much like letting that fuel them. Do you see that anger?
Absolutely. I mean, growing up, at least for me, it was always, you have to do this, you're not doing well enough here, you need to focus on these things, and you need to have these responsibilities. And it's like, I don't agree. So, and I think they have a similar feeling, which is why I, you know, connected with it so well. And maybe that as a younger boy, it just probably wasn't appreciated as much.
Sure.
But yeah, it's, you know, it gets old.
Yeah. I want to give some background on HF Festival for our listeners. So HF Festival was the radio station's festival held every summer from 1990 to 2006. And then they held it again 2010 and 2011. I believe that was the last time it was held. If anyone knows if it's been held anytime since 2011, let me know. 2000 was considered their peak year with performances by Rage Against the Machine and Stone Temple Pilots. It sold out like right away. And so for a couple of years after that, including 2001, they made it 2 days. There was an article on MTV that was just very, very sweet, because you think about how this had to have been like such a heartwarming moment, like such a full circle kind of heartwarming moment for them. And MTV said Monday's concert goers were in for an added treat. They appeared in Good Charlotte's video for their next single, aptly titled Festival Song, which was shot during their set. And Joel says, I grew up coming to HF Festival. I wrote this song about being here, how we wanted to quit our jobs to be in a band. We have all our friends, the fans, and the radio support right here. I love it.
Pretty awesome, yeah. Learning more about this, because you've given me more information than I've ever known about the song. It's like, this is so much cooler than I originally anticipated.
Yeah, it's fun, like learning all the stuff you kind of never knew.
Right. I mean, got the CD when I was, you know, like I said, just over 10 years old, and it's, you know, been cycled so many times, and you don't really have the history when you're just listening to the music. But that's awesome.
Wait, I have to ask, which version of this album did you get? Did it have like the picture of the band on the cover, or did it just say GC?
GC, Good Charlotte with the banner. I mean,
and then it had the
last
song.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think the Thank You Mom, the bonus track at the end, wasn't even listed. It was just, you know,
it was like a secret
wait 5
track.
seconds afterwards. Yeah.
Remember when, I remember back in the day, like around that time, a couple of years after this album came out, you know, everyone's using iTunes, and it would be like change/Thank You Mom or whatever in one track on iTunes. But it feels like on Spotify, now that everyone's streaming on Spotify, there's not so many like hidden tracks like that. I mean, I guess sometimes artists will do like deluxe editions, but
I think that kind of adds to the whole album idea kind of disappearing. with the instant gratification and like you release a single, it's like, all right, I'm gonna add that single, release the album a few months later or a few weeks later, whatever, and it probably won't get the same listen that it would 10 years ago or before.
Yeah. But I don't know. I feel like there's also room for, I mean, we could go on for like hours and hours talking about, you know, the viability of streaming, but I feel like there's room for stuff to be discovered since we're not only relying on radio play to, you know, get an artist popular. I feel like there's more room for stuff to have a slow burn or to be discovered like kind of a few years after it was released.
Ooh.
Like Wallows had a song, Are You Bored Yet? That became a huge hit. Like, I don't know, I want to say a year after the album came out, it started blowing up, or like almost a year after the album came out, even though they already had a video. And Walk the Moon had a song in the Kissing Booth movie this summer, 3 years after that album came out. Almost 3 years. And now that song is like blowing up. So I don't know.
Similar with Anna's Son when they first released that, like it was popular around here for a couple of years, and all of a sudden it just blew up and they disappeared from the Cincinnati scene. But I mean, that's kind of what you hope for, right?
Yeah. I'm also a very big Walk the Moon fan. I think only one of them, Eli, still lives in Ohio, so they're mostly not even living there anymore. But they still, I don't know if you've seen them in the last few years, but I've seen them in like New York, and they'll say, we are Walk the Moon and we're from Ohio. So they still hold Ohio close in their hearts. Don't worry.
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate them for that.
Yes. Oh, yeah. So one thing I noted about this video, so I want to talk about punk. So in the video, Benji is wearing a Casualty shirt. The bridge of this song is a Sex Pistols reference. I'm pretty sure it is. I don't know if it's like officially, but in Sex Pistols, God Save the Queen, they sing No Future, No Future. And then the bridge to this song says, Your Future's No Future. Benji was a big Sid Vicious fan, and he would call himself Kid Vicious, and you know, they'd cite Sex Pistols as an influence. I feel like, I don't know. So let me just ask you this, Chase. Are Good Charlotte punk? Not pop punk. Are they punk?
I mean, I would say yes. I know everybody has this certain image in their head for punk, but even as Matthew Lillard said in SLC Punk, like it's not how you look or how you present yourself. Even it's kind of a mentality.
Yeah.
And I think they're very strong, especially in this song. It's like, I'm not doing what you're telling me. I'm not going to be part of your society. I'm going to do things the way I want, and that's punk as fuck. Excuse me if I can't say that. But,
oh, you can totally say that.
Oh, well, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that's as punk as you can be, and having those roots to people like Sid Vicious and Casualties, whatever else. I mean, that's, you're not going to get a strong influence than them in that aspect.
I had Casey Crawford from the band Virginity on the show to talk about Screamer, and he was telling me about seeing them at Warped Tour in like 2001, and how, you know, they're playing this like relatively pop sounding music, and then they're like, oh, and go watch the Casualties and Rancid or whatever. Here's what I wrote down. So, and my thoughts are evolving since I like wrote these notes. I wrote down in my notes that, you know, you can tell from, you know, the Sex Pistols reference and Benji wearing a Casualty shirt that they have a lot of appreciation for quote unquote real punk, as in not pop punk, but like actual punk. But there's like a level of shamelessness in this song that you don't always get in quote unquote real punk. I feel like, you know, there's this idea that in order to be punk, I'm making finger quotes, you have to be kind of chill about it. But I kind of think that the punkest thing is to like not give a shit, to be totally shameless and be like, fuck it, you know what? I am not going to listen to the haters. I'm going to do what I want. Maybe it is catchy and very pop sounding, but okay, like whatever. They're not playing it cool, but so in a way, I think that makes them very punk.
Absolutely. I agree completely.
Um,
if I want to listen to Demi Lovato, then listen to Black Flag right after. There's no one stopping me. And
yeah.
Fuck it. Like, that's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, if we were to get real meta, you know, I think that would go into, well, why are you listening to Demi Lovato and Black Flag? Are you listening to Black Flag because you like Black Flag, or are you listening to Black Flag because you think it's cool to listen to Black Flag? You know, and is not that either of those are wrong, but one would be kind of more in line with the punk ethos. I think. Yeah. There was an interview with hotpress.com called Charlotte is a Punk Rocker, and they kept referring to the band, and I've never heard them referred to this elsewhere, as the Charlotte.
Yeah, that's a new one for me.
Yeah, like I've read so many interviews about this band, and I've never seen them as the Charlotte. It's usually, you know, Good Charlotte or JC. But this interview basically talked about how it was like very picking apart, but like valid, that, you know, the band will kind of say that they don't care if they're seen as punk, but there is clearly some insecurities there. But like, I think that's totally human. Like, as much as anyone wants to say they don't care about what people think, I think everyone does care. I think it's just like, okay,
some point or another, like whether you can make a facade over it is kind of, I guess, the real skill.
Yeah, and it's like, are you going to let what other people think influence your behavior?
Exactly.
Like, I was a big fan of the Hot Topic in high school.
As I think most of us are.
Yeah,
if you're listening to this.
Right,
so.
if you're listening to this show. I feel like I have to have someone who like works at a Hot Topic or worked at a Hot Topic in the early 2000s to come on this show. Like someone who manages a Hot Topic, or maybe someone at Hot Topic corporate.
Right. I was still just, you know, dragging my mom to that store at that time. So
but like my peers were not into it. They did not appreciate, you know, the skull earrings and the black and white, you know, those like arm the like gloves that like went up your arm, like the fingerless gloves. And
that's kind of the point, right?
Like, right. They did, like, my peers did not appreciate it, and I remember being pretty sad that I got some not nice things said to me. My parents were like, well, you could just dress in like khakis and polos like your classmates. And I was like, no.
Right.
It makes me sad when they say mean things, but I'm not gonna change. Like,
and that's a true like show of character. Like, don't change for other people. Stick to your guns. Stay true to yourself.
I want to say, like, PSA to anyone listening, like, it is normal and human to feel sad when people say mean things to you. It is not okay for those people to say those mean things. Whether we're talking about like bullying in high school or, you know, harassment in the workplace or online harassment, that is not okay. You are normal and sad. You are normal and human if that makes you sad, even if you are not the type of person who lets that actually affect your behavior. So this article actually came out around on hotpress.com. Great website name. It came out around when they were releasing Good Morning Revival, which was like, I guess, pretty quote unquote controversial because it was like pop and clubby, but maybe that makes it punk if they were like, we don't care if people like it. Like, you know, Benji says, we just want to make a record that we love. At the same time, you're a little nervous because you don't want to let anyone down. You have all these people over there that are worried about the commercial success, and we're over here just wanting to make a record. And he said that you don't want to let them down, but at the same time, you can't let that dictate what you do in the studio.
And even then, I mean, I know Dance Floor Anthem was, you know, the big hit, and still as you play that today, everybody's going to jump around to it. But even like The River, when they put the Sevenfold on that, like that was kind of brand new, especially for the pop punk community, like having these pop punk legends and these metal legends playing together, and something you would never assume would happen, and it was awesome. I loved it. I remember me and my friend, because his favorite band was Avenged Sevenfold, and I was the pop punk kid, and we just got
so
our
you
guitars
bonded
and
over
we're
that song, yeah.
absolutely, yeah. We played that so many times, and it was just a kind of a merging of two worlds, I guess, and I thought that was really cool.
I mean, The River is great, and that, obviously that will have its own episode, but yeah, just seeing the merging. I don't want to I have a whole hypothesis on The River, but I'll save that for that episode. Yeah, seeing the merging of the two worlds on that song was particularly great. I don't know. I mean, if we're talking about what is punk, does Good Charlotte fit what was traditionally described as punk rock?
I mean, if you put them back in the origin days of punk, I would say absolutely no, but
no,
everything evolves, and
yeah,
that's a part of it. Make it more mainstream, if you will. Let other people who don't actually, or who are scared to take that step, or don't realize that there's people that fit in with them, and they're just
right.
You don't have to dress up just like those people do. You don't have to do the same things. Like, we all have different feelings, but feel the same way, kind of.
Yeah, yeah. Punk as a music genre, punk as a style of dress, and punk as an ethos, a way of kind of living, if you will, are all different things, I think. Exactly. A rapper could be punk. I mean, obviously you have Machine Gun Kelly, who takes a lot of
cool things.
Takes a lot of influence from punk and pop punk music, but even if a rapper didn't take that influence like he does, a rapper could be punk if they had the ethos, I think.
Exactly. And one of my favorite books, Clockwork Orange, they really go through that whole kind of dressing punk and acting punk, but I would say the same thing. Even though you're dressing this way, you're not, exactly acting the way that other people would in that situation, or would have the same defiance as you, or don't have the courage to do so. And
I have never read A Clockwork Orange, but I do remember hearing that Joel was pretty into it back in the day. I'm pretty a little spotty on this. I don't remember exactly where he said it, because this is many years ago, but I do remember Joel saying that he was really into it. And now as you describe it, I'm okay, that totally makes sense. It's a movie too, right?
It is. Okay. I would recommend the book over it, of course, but
recommend the book.
movie's
okay.
pretty good too.
Okay. I'm currently reading and quite engrossed in Midnight Sun, but I will finish that eventually and need something new. It's so good. Are you a Twilight person?
I will take your word for it. I apologize.
I liked Twilight. I haven't touched the books in several years, but Midnight Sun came out and I was like, all right, I gotta buy this. And I'm enjoying it a lot.
The soundtrack they had for the first movie, I say it's definitely one of the better soundtracks I've ever heard.
Oh yeah,
especially with Dakota on it. That song, fantastic. The movie, is what it is.
Yeah. Since we're talking about festival song, Chase, let's talk about music festivals.
Absolutely.
And I put in my notes, R.I.P. ? So Mascots got to play main stage at Warped Tour 2017. Was this the Cincinnati venue that's also the water park?
It is.
Yes.
State champs did their music video there after they played Warped Tour one year. So while we were all, still moshing and sweating, they were swimming right next door and making a cool video.
Amazing. I remember when I was there on the tour, finishing my work day, and we tear our tent down at 6 or 7. Went for a little swim, did some water slides, and then I was like, oh shit, there's a band I kind of want to go see. What was that like playing Warped Tour?
I mean, surreal. It's this huge festival that it's kind of the main stage of every year for me for so long.
Yeah.
And here I am, just some random kid, just throwing my guitar around for a sea of thousands of people.
So cool.
Who, were naturally there to see Andy Black right afterwards.
Yeah.
Also from Cincinnati.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But just there will never be a rush, I think, more than that.
Amazing.
Than seeing that many people and, nobody throwing tomatoes at you or booing you off the stage. It was a great time. And even afterwards, just the fans and the people that would come up to me and the nice things they would say, and just it was kind of I don't know, humbling. But, gave me more confidence in doing what I was doing at the time and doing now. It made me, feel like I was on the right track, and I think that was a huge boost for us. And
getting that confidence boost can do such wonders. And like whatever that confidence boost is, like in your case it was Warped Tour, but like in my career I've had the band, so I guess I land a really cool band interview that gives me the confidence boost. And I feel like that, for me anyway, getting like a big opportunity, just like it really fuels me to work harder and harder and harder.
Yeah, especially at that time, it was a very bittersweet, because our original vocalist had just found out a few months earlier that he was going to be having his first child.
Wow.
And that, we've, after that much traction and that much build-up happening so fast, and him needing to leave right after to support his family, and he's still my best friend. I saw him yesterday for his kid's birthday party.
Amazing.
But it was kind of a roller coaster of emotions, but it was something like once we were there, we didn't want to stop, and I think that really is why we kind of are still a band today, trying to push forward and keep doing that. So
what's been, I feel like this is such a cliche question, but I almost feel like I haven't directly asked this question of anyone because I know it's kind of cliched, but what has quarantine been like? How, what's your kind of plan right now? Like you just put out this music video. What's spinning now?
Yeah, so we actually recorded a couple songs last year that we've been holding on to kind of get a basis around the new songs that we've been writing, which has been kind of delayed because of this, so we haven't been traveling to record. But I think it's given us a lot more time to kind of focus in on how we want to continue. There's been talks of changing sounds, trying new things, and it's been an exciting time. Unfortunately, we've not been able to see each other as much due to it. Like one of us will be sick and we'll, whether or not it is, the coronavirus or not, you gotta
be safe.
Careful.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of, digital communication, which I think is not exactly slowed us down in our songwriting process, but given us a different approach. And I'm excited to see what comes up. We actually will have the second song that we recorded should be coming up very soon.
Ooh.
Heads up. It'll be called 22.
Listeners, if this song is out by the time the podcast is up, I'll cut in. That's exciting. So I just have to ask this as we talk about music festivals. Two questions. So favorite festival you've gone to as a fan, and that could be like a specific Warped Tour date or something, and the worst sunburn you've ever gotten at a festival.
Probably one and the same, actually.
Okay.
So when we first started Mascots, me, the original vocalist Drew, and our bassist Alex, wanted to do the old school stand in lines for shows and pass out CDs.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask if you guys would like hustle CDs in lines.
Oh, absolutely. And these weren't we weren't doing the nice CDs at this time. It was just spending hours next to a computer, burning as many
Oh,
copies
yeah.
as we could.
I have
we
so many
traveled.
CDs that I've bought from bands doing that. Yeah.
Right? It was a good time. So we ended up going to 3 dates back to back to back: Cleveland, Indianapolis, and Cincinnati. Spending all day just talking to different people and hear what we have, and hustling the band as much as possible. And I had never been so tired
Yeah.
and so burnt and from so much walking. I mean, it wasn't just we're there to we're at Warped Tour, might as well enjoy Warped Tour for all 3 days as well. I'm glad we did at that time. So yeah, I remember coming back after all was said and done and not being able to move for a week and
Oh my
just
God.
waiting for the burns on my shoulders and legs to just stop.
Oh my God.
And I don't think I'd been that burned again until a couple weeks ago.
The worst.
Right.
I sunburn very easily. I'm very pale, so I sunburn very easily. So I am like religious about putting on, SPF 50 whenever there is like one ray of sun outside.
Smart idea.
Yeah. I haven't been to that many festivals as a fan because I was always like shooting or, working for a nonprofit or something. But I did go to a few days of Sad Summer Festival as a fan and last summer, and their New York City show was on Pier 17. So all of the merch was inside, but then the show itself was on the roof, and you had this like awesome view of New York, and they had fancy drinks out there and some food and stuff. And it was great. It was just so awesome. I think my worst sunburn from a festival would have been last summer, the Warped Tour like anniversary thing in Atlantic City that I was working. And the first day I didn't notice the sunburn, but I got bad, just like blisters on my feet from like walking around. The second day, I am just like, I get in the sun the second day and I'm like, oh, I'm dying. I'm sunburned so bad. And I think Atlantic City is like a little less than 2 hours drive for me. And on my way home looking like, all right, where can I stop at a Target on my way home to buy some aloe?
Nothing's better than, wincing every time you need to turn your car because
and it was so bad. And so like I think I found a Target that was like on the way, and it was like halfway between Atlantic City and home. I got some aloe. It was fine. And a week later, I was driving up to Buffalo for the 4th of July, and I was like looking in my rear view mirror, and I was peeling on like my face, my shoulder, my arm. It was terrible. It was terrible. I guess this is I did go to the beach this year. So I was like, this is the first year I haven't gotten sunburned, but no, I did go to the beach and get sunburned.
Right. I was doing so well all year, and then a few friends were like, we should go to a lake. And little did I realize, no matter how much sunscreen I put on, it wasn't helping this year.
Well, my thing is like, if I sweat, and I also sweat easily, like I just do, especially if it's humid, that sunscreen melts off in like 2 minutes.
Right.
Yeah, it's bad. Other good Charlotte songs that this relates to, I mean, we'll talk about fan comments in a second, but a lot of fans were also commenting that this is like kind of a precursor to the anthem. That's the big one for me.
Absolutely. I think they have that same message, and maybe it was just because I heard festival song before I heard the anthem that this is the one that sticks with me. But yeah, the same idea of, I don't want to do what you're telling me, and I'm gonna, trying to think of the actual lyrics here. Now things like school being a jail cell, a penitentiary, and teachers telling you like, hey, you need to find this job. But I'm not gonna be just like you. I'm gonna,
I'm gonna do what I want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that's a very strong point. I like that.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this music video So
Okay.
we mentioned Benji's Casualty shirt, but yeah, this music video is so great. I watched it like 3 times on my TV before this. So the video was filmed. They had been on tour with MXPX and they appeared at HF Festival. It was directed by Mark Webb, who also did their Motivation Proclamation video. Mark Webb notably was the director of 500 Days of Summer, as well as The Amazing Spider-Man. And he also did videos for Three Doors Down, Green Day, Maroon 5, MXPX. He did Yellow Card, Ocean Avenue, several My Chemical Romance videos, including I'm Not Okay and Helena, which is like one of the best music videos of all time.
It's quite a resume.
Yeah. Crazy resume. Incredible. And yeah, it's basically a documentary of their day. You see them in the van, on stage, hanging out backstage. I heard a podcast. I'm like vaguely remembering a podcast I heard with their brother, Josh Madden, talking about how like they need to do a festival song video and they didn't have a big budget. So it was like, let's do this. There was an interview with Alter the Press. Do you remember that site?
Which one?
alterthepress.com.
No, I thought you said alternative press. I'm like,
no. I mean, obviously, many good Charlotte interviews on alternative press, but
right.
Alter the Press, I read a ton, like around this time of this interview, which was 2012. But I guess I just hadn't been keeping up with them super regularly recently. But Joel talks about this interview was like the 10-year anniversary of The Young and the Hopeless. And Joel talks about how like this video, in contrast to Little Things, which was like a scripted video, it was storied and I guess a much higher budget, that this video was a representation of where they were at the time. He says that the director, the label pushed us in a shiny poppy direction, and us being so young, we kind of went with it. At the time, we didn't even know what we were doing. We were from a small town and hadn't really been out in the world. When that didn't work, the label just left us to it. When we did the video for Festival Song, that was more of a real representation of what the band was at the time. When we shot it, we were out on tour and things were peaking. And he talks about, touring, playing in vans to a few hundred people a night, and having all this respect for bands like Newfound Glory, Sum 41, MXPX, because he's like, I saw the work they all put in. Yeah, it was a nice story.
I think the budget might not be, always an issue. I think it allows you to kind of see exactly what you have and what's around you, instead of here's the story that we made up and here's the budget to make it up, which can always be beneficial for certain scenes, but more punk kind of styled songs, I think it really just kind of allows you to push it in that direction.
Yeah.
It's like,
I mean, I work in music video promotion. That's my full-time job. And like, obviously no one is doing, typical music videos right now. I mean, I guess some places stuff might be opening up to where you could film, but like, people are forced to get creative and either do stuff at home, or like you have people kind of pulling together like old live montage videos. And guess what? There have been so many great things happening. We've seen so much creative stuff come out when people don't have a huge budget per se, when they don't have the physical resources of being able to work with a crew.
Exactly. And I think it shows the creativity of some people when they're forced to push it that way, instead of like you said, having that availability.
Yeah. I also, in terms of like people who love this song, Jack Barricade of All Time Low told Kerrang that this was one of the 10 songs that changed his life. Listeners, you probably know, but All Time Low is also from the Baltimore area. And I'm remembering a tweet a few years ago where Jack said that, like, he was like, the first time I was at this venue, I was front row for GC, and now we're headlining and we sold it out. How cool. So I know that All Time Low and Jack, that they're big GC fans. But Jack told Kerrang that this was he was there when they filmed this video.
Wow.
He said he had gone with his brother. He ran into Alex Gaskarth, but Alex was like kind of there with a different group of friends. Jack says that this was his first festival. He says, I recently posted a picture from that festival on my Instagram. It was my first time smelling weed and seeing people get naked. It was a huge event and a life-changing experience for me. What a time.
That's awesome. I mean, I guess I don't have as much connection as he does, but new connection for me and Jack Bearcat, I suppose.
Right.
Right? So apparently this song does have a bigger influence than I thought. And, All Time Low has been a huge influence, especially on kind of the more modern pop punk aspect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would love to have Jack or any member of that band on this show. That would be amazing. Because I feel like they do some of what Good Charlotte does really well, that they have like the really dedicated fans.
Right.
Like there are bands that, like, I don't want to like name names, but there are bands that are really big, that are like really famous, play huge shows, but I'm like, does anyone call them their favorite band?
Right. Sometimes it's just more of a push of kind of the resources thing. To push the money towards what you're listening to and forcing you to listen to it versus what you actually go out of your way and listen to.
Yeah. Well, I want to read some fan comments on this song. So first we have some YouTube comments. Lots of people on YouTube saying that they are somewhere in the crowd of the video. Lots of those. Grilindi Rivera said, this was when they were still good. Punk music. The Rip 314 said, HF Festival was a milestone for so many, including these little punks. So there you go, haters. 2 people on YouTube.com, the definitive judging place on the internet, have said that Good Charlotte are punk. Take that, haters.
That settles it.
Yeah, that settles it, right? Yeah. Okay, so I don't know why I didn't do this before, but we're going to read some Amazon reviews of this album.
Should be interesting.
Yeah, so March 2003, a user said, this is a good, fun song. The music is good, but it's not as good as the others. Still a good song, though. 7 out of 10. Very descriptive.
Yeah,
Thank
very
you.
modest, yeah.
Yeah, not good, but not as good as the others. Still good, though. I mean, okay. April 2001, a user named Drew said that it sounds a little like Third Eye Blind.
Okay.
I'm trying to hear it. I don't want to say no, but I also don't really want to say yes.
Yeah,
what do you
I'd
think?
say the Third Eye Blind's a little more of a softer rock. Yeah. I mean, I guess
they're great. I've seen them live a few times. They're awesome, but
I don't think they have that same energy or the same message that Good Charlotte's going for exactly. Which is in no way a bad thing. I love both bands very much. But I wouldn't really compare this to Third Eye Blind. Yeah.
All right. Well, I got to read this one comment. One last comment from May 2001. In all caps. Why are these guys considered punk? Quotation marks. Let's get one thing straight here. This is a far cry from the term punk rock music. Punk rock music. Bad Religion, Dead Kennedys, Good Riddance, No Effects, Pennywise, Anti-Flag, Minor Threat, Rancid, The Offspring, Pre-Americana.
I mean, you are not wrong, sir. But
true.
Those bands are not the only, defiance of what punk is.
Right. And, punk, as we've been saying, punk is a multifaceted thing. It's not just a quote-unquote style of music.
Right.
This listener goes on to say that they were instantly hooked on Little Things and that this is one CD you just have to turn up and sing along to at the top of your lungs. Agreed. Excellent CD, one of the best debuts of 2000. extra note, I was not insulting GC at all for saying they aren't punk. I was just simply stating they do not fall under the category of punk rock.
Fair enough.
I mean, fair, like, you know.
I mean, somebody's going to always put a genre to whatever you do.
Yeah.
Even if they can't think of one. I remember making a big deal a long time ago when All American Rejects Move Along was put out and classified as an emo album. I'm like, no, it's not. But
no, but it's also not, like, I wouldn't have said it's pop punk.
Right.
It's, I would say, emo-ish. Like, it's like if Mayday Parade is emo, then All American Rejects Move Along is emo.
I mean,
like Mayday Parade is not pop punk.
Yeah,
I probably made some people mad by saying that.
No, it all depends on how your genre, how the listener or whoever is, marking these sees it.
I'm not hating Mayday Parade. Mayday Parade's great. Yeah.
Still wouldn't consider them emo.
I'm not saying they are emo. I'm just saying that if Mayday Parade is emo, then All American Rejects Move Along is emo.
Exactly.
I don't know. People say genres are meaningless, and I feel like there is a lot more like crossover now than maybe you had a few years ago, definitely than you had at the time that this album came out. But I still feel like genres are useful in terms of describing something and placing it, but I think there's like more room for flexibility now.
Exactly. I mean, I don't like being a genre snob or saying this is that, that's that. Right. But I mean, it does help classify. If you like this band, you might like this band. It just builds that community, like we were discussing earlier.
Right. Yeah, and that's a good thing to have, I think.
Yeah.
So, Chase, how has Festival Song held up for you over time?
Well, like I said, I still jam it very often and very loudly in my car, especially, the nights we've been having where it's still warm out. But it reminds me of kind of why this all happened in the first place, why I'm doing what I'm doing now. And, not that I need to be reminded of those things every day. It's kind of just become a part of me. That's where it all started. I mean, they were someone who understood, or at least I took them as somebody who understood what I was going through, and they kind of showed me a new light and like, hey, this is all right. You're good. You do you. And I think that it's still, if I put it on, for my friends wherever we're at, nobody's gonna say turn that off. It's still, jams just as heavy as the new stuff does, and I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, I put this song on earlier, and I was just like, all right, I'm just like blah. I was just feeling very like blah earlier, like not tired, but also like how when you feel
underwhelmed,
underwhelmed, and how you feel like, oh, I haven't like done much the past few days.
Yeah, very familiar.
Yeah, which I think we've all felt during quarantine, right?
Right.
And I put on this song, and I was like, all right, I'm pumped. I'm gonna make a healthy dinner. I'm gonna eat my healthy dinner, and I'm gonna journal, and I'm gonna do this podcast. I got this. Like we're doing it. We're working.
And it just comes in so strong. Like you get that cool guitar riff and the drums kick in, and you just get that nice and it's just, it puts you in that mood, and exactly what's happening. And your first words, I don't care about a thing today. I used to when I'm fed up, and it's like, yeah, screw it. I don't need to worry about those things right now.
Yeah. So, Chase, what has Good Charlotte meant to you over the years, and how has that changed?
Like I said, they were the kind of forefathers for me in discovering pop punk. And I don't want to put it this way, but I guess it's more of a nostalgic thing at this point, where I know they're still around, they're still releasing great music that people love. But after Good Morning Revival, I they kind of fell off kind of the music world for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't relating to the same things the way that I was before, and again, nothing against them. You got to do what you have to do musically, and it's going to be how they're feeling in that moment, but it didn't match up with what I was feeling. So I guess I kept re-listening to those albums that have already been released. I remember the first time I heard Like It's Your Birthday,
Mm-hmm.
I was on a date in a car in like junior year of high school, and I kind of got like a sinking feeling like, oh, this isn't
What is this?
what I wanted. Yeah, like I don't know what this isn't Good Charlotte. I was excited for a new Good Charlotte song.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, even though they're not as relevant to me right now, they've done so much, and they're still such a, I guess, inspiration, and I idolized them for so long and still do, and
Yeah.
I hope that I can, be a tenth of what they've made Good Charlotte to be. And yeah, they will always, will always be on a playlist.
Yeah. Sounds like you're grinding, you gotta keep putting in the hard work. When it sounds like you are, y'all are adjusting and doing what you can do, in our situation.
Yeah. Appreciate that.
Of course. Do you have any last words about festival song Good Charlotte, about Mascots, or just about yourself that you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't heard festival song before, do that now and thank us later.
I mean, every once in a while we get people it'll be like someone just tells their friend to listen, and someone who hasn't heard Good Charlotte before.
And if you do like that song, please check out Mascots and figure it out, and we hope to have a lot more for you soon.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, Chase, so I do a Generation GC and Friends Spotify playlist, and I include the songs that we cover on the show. I'll put your new song, Figure It Out, on there, but I also like to get recommendations from our guests. So can you give me a recommendation, just anything you've been listening to lately that's not Good Charlotte or your own band?
Oh, I mean, I would have to, just because I've been jamming it so much lately, if it's not on there, Knuckle Pucks, Breathe with Eric Sanders. It's been a fantastic single.
So wait.
All summer.
Is Knuckle Puck emo, or are they pop punk?
Yes. I mean, I think there's so much, everything's pop punk now, and they definitely have a strong Midwest emo kind of influence to them, in my opinion. So
yeah. Fair. Wow, it's a great song. Yeah, I like Knuckle Puck a lot. Chase, thank you so much for coming on the show. Listeners, thank you for tuning in to episode 33 of Generation GC. Last week, we talked about Better Demons from Generation RX. Next week, we'll be talking about a song from The Young and the Hopeless. My name is Molly Hudelson. I've been your host. You can follow Generation GC at Generation GC Pod, P-O-D, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can also follow me, Molly, at M Hudelson, M-H-U-D-E-L-S-O-N, on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for tuning in. Please make sure to subscribe to the show. Make sure you're following it. Keep up with us on social so you can be the first ones to hear new episodes when they drop. And please rate the podcast on iTunes, leave a review, tell all your friends, even if they don't like it, Charlotte. Thank you all for tuning in.